Wall Street Memes Casino,
I'm fine.
and Sportsbook.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFLTV. It is Wednesday morning, 9:41. Delighted to be joined by correspondent Gareth A. Davies. Hello, mate.
Hi, mate. You just can't leave me alone, can you? I barely got back from LA, still trying to get over the jet lag, and here you are hassling me to get up early in the morning to speak to you, looking freshly groomed. Look like you've just been down the barbers. Just had a little, you just had a little fade done. Look, I know your game. Friday's coming up, and you're going to be out on the town.
Gareth, it's the middle of the week. I'm not even thinking about Friday, and actually Friday's my mother's birthday, so I'll be with her.
Well, you mentioned your mum. Happy birthday to your mum. You know, obviously the stories that go back in the day that we can't even talk about that thing as a joke anymore. That people used to think I was your dad because
Such a dick. You're such a dickhead, Gareth. Anyway, swiftly moving on, because my mother does watch these interviews, so...
I know, and your mum and dad are very, very sweet people.
Yeah, and listen, if my dad heard you saying these comments, he would be over that way straight away.
All right, well, let me make it clear what I'm saying in these comments. So a long time ago when we first met, because I'd played cricket in Sri Lanka at the same time you were born, people started asking, God, are you actually KUGAN's dad? Do you remember? And that's all it is. So if your father is offended in any way, he shouldn't be, because they're both beloved to me, your parents, and you're an absolute credit to them both as well, and I want them to know that. So I'm backtracking, but
yeah, Gareth, stop with the shovel. We can
okay.
Gareth, let's start by talking about Ireland's Kelly Harrington. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh yeah. What are we talking about? The Olympics now, then?
Well, of course we are.
I didn't realise we were doing a bit of Olympic chat. Yeah, absolutely.
Doing a bit of Olympic chat. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. It's been a weird Olympics in lots of ways. I know we'll come to it in a minute, but yeah, brilliant stuff from Kelly Harrington.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, obviously the other talking point is the much publicised Khelif has progressed to the final, which is on this Friday. Yeah, and a good chance of getting that gold. Guaranteed a silver, but good chance of getting that gold.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's delve into the story. You know, what's natural or unnatural? Are there sporting advantages? Is someone male or female? What are their chromosomes? You know, the debate for a long time, and this is why it's been such a huge issue in the last week and a half, is, you know, for a long time in sports, there's been a debate over what is a woman. And it's been a very political situation. And politically, a woman has been described as an adult human female. But obviously, because of the whole transgender issue in sport and all of those issues that have been going on for a few years, this is a very tragic example of something in the middle that doesn't quite fit, and that's the debate here. Intersex people have probably always existed, and now I think we've got to the point in society and in sports where they're a physical reality. We have two genders in sport. We have male sport and we have female sport. And we come to the point of what happens to people who are intersex. Do they fit in the middle? Do they fit? It doesn't matter in men's sport because men are stronger and faster. And if you get the very best against the best, they tend to be faster and stronger than women. They might not run. The only thing they don't beat women in is ultra long distance running that women can win. It's kind of proven physiologically. But we got to the point of what do you do? And it's been a horrific time for Khelif, like you say, very difficult time. They got it wrong, first of all. Some very prominent people got it wrong that it was a transgender issue, and it wasn't. It was an intersex issue. It's an issue about the chromosomes in someone physically when they're born, their biological makeup. The fact that IBA and the IOC are in conflict as well over this is part of the political football, because the woman in the final from Algeria was suspended from the World Championships. The last IBA World Championships wasn't allowed in it because their testing system didn't allow them in. And I do genuinely feel that these two athletes, the Taiwanese athlete and the Algerian athlete, have been very unfortunate. They're the wrong people in the wrong place at the wrong time, if you like. And the IOC is standing by them, but the outside world is very critical of it, myself included, because the IOC's testing system probably isn't right. That's my take on it all, KUGAN, and I think I can't see it any fairer than that in my mind. You know, they're unfortunate, but to suspend them from the competition in this moment seems very difficult. But I think we're going to look back on it as the IOC not having the right testing procedure in place.
I think one of the main issues from a media standpoint is that a lot of credible people out there went with some misinformation on
Correct.
that day.
Yeah,
that kind of spiraled over social media and almost become that was the case, which evidently we learned hours after it wasn't. And kind of I was guilty of that as well, because I was following sort of reports from people trying to stick to facts, but also in that kind of melee of those few hours where this story was really kind of hitting its peak, changed my line of questioning to people, which is a learning lesson for myself and probably a lot of people in boxing, to make sure that the information being put out there, regardless of who it's from, is accurate.
yeah, you've always got to be informed. I think that, you know, we all get misinformed at times. Social media is a huge misinformation highway at times. You know, I mean, I think even people like Claressa Shields, very prominent people in the sport, were hammering a transgender issue at one point, not realizing that these two women were born women and have lived as women all their lives and will continue to live as women. And then obviously, I think Claressa retracted what she'd said. And I think one of the issues here is that, as I say, it's very political, not just IBA, IBA, the world's governing body for amateur boxing, and the IOC at loggerheads. And they're at loggerheads anyway, because the IOC is potentially not letting IBA in to run boxing at the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles. There's a political football around what is one's gender and that whole transgender issue. And this was an opportunity, as many people saw it, to have a go back at transgender. What we're also talking about here is this is a very unique sport that we're in. It's combat sports, it's contact sports, and it's not Caster Semenya running on a track. If you remember Caster Semenya, who a few years ago ran for South Africa, who was miles ahead of everyone else in the 1,500 meters or 5,000 meters, winning by lap after lap. She had the same thing. She was transsex. She had male characteristics, chromosomatically and otherwise. So yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation, but it's highlighted something that needed highlighting, which is you can't have someone who has male physicality fighting women genuinely. That's been the big issue here. It's a grey area, and I think biological testing needs to come in from male to female, chromosomatically anyway, if that makes sense.
Gareth, just one more on this. Regardless of whether Khelif does get a silver or a gold, does Khelif leave the Olympics as boxing's hottest, not possible, Hottest property from the Olympics? Surely there's a good argument for that. If a promoter was to, obviously, someone will come in for Khelif. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a very good point. I hadn't thought about it, but there is an argument that Khelif leaves the Olympics as one of boxing's hottest properties. And because if she enters into the pro game, everybody's going to know who she is. She's going to sell. But are they going to make her undergo biological testing? Is the pro side of the sport, the commission's going to accept that she's going to be a female boxer? Because if they don't, she probably hasn't got a future. She's not going to make it in men's boxing. And maybe she shouldn't have to. It's going to be a very interesting journey if she does. It's a very, very interesting point. But yeah, she's going to certainly be one of the most known boxers in the world.
Okay. So this morning, I'm sure you would have seen, well, I don't know at what point you saw this, but we saw a quite spectacular statement from Turki Al-Sheikh regarding Canelo.
Yeah.
I'll just read for people that haven't seen the first couple of lines of what Turki has said. I heard what Canelo said, that he respects me, but doesn't like the way we do business. As for him respecting me, it doesn't matter to me if he does or not. As for the way I do business, I know why he doesn't like it, because I only target big fights at fair prices. So, of course, anyone who likes easy fights won't like that. That statement does continue quite considerably, but I'm sure you would have read that. What did you make of that, Gareth?
Well, I mean, it aligns with his view that he's lost interest in the Crawford-Canelo fight. We know that they were trying to make Canelo Benavidez. We know that Canelo wants to control the end of his career. I think after Saturday night in Los Angeles, my feeling, even though I've been an advocate for it, was that the Crawford-Canelo fight probably shouldn't happen. I think 6 weight divisions is going to be too much. I think Canelo will be too big and too strong and too powerful and belong in a weight division too high for Crawford. If Canelo were still at middleweight, I think it'd be very viable, because it would completely take him to the limit of 5 weight classes. I think 6 weight classes against a fellow pound for pounder is a big, big leap for Crawford, if you consider him starting at lightweight and moving upwards. I think if you cherry picked your opponent, a different thing, but against a guy who is with him in the top 3, top 4 pound for pound, then it's a different prospect. Yeah, look, Turki Al-Sheikh's flexing his muscles. Canelo's clearly asked for too much. We know they were in the talks. We know that he's gone a different direction in fighting Edgar Berlanga. I think it's Jaime Munguia all over again. He's made for Canelo's hooks. I think Turki Al-Sheikh is in the position to change his mind readily and with alacrity whenever he wants to. And I think after Saturday night, he's probably what he wants. He wants the Benavidez fight. Turki Al-Sheikh, if he's going to do a big fight, it's Canelo against Benavidez. It's Canelo against Beterbiev. If Beterbiev beats Bivol in October. But, you know, we see where His Excellency is now with all these things. He's deep into it. It was a big week in Los Angeles. I mean, he was saying before the fight, he's been quite honest about it. He was saying before the event in an interview in the ring with Adi Oladipo on DAZN that there's a chance of Terence Crawford fighting Canelo. 24 hours later, 17 hours later, he's saying, no, I don't think I'm interested in that fight. And he's pushing Boots Ennis and Shakur Stevenson, not against Crawford, but pushing those guys. And at least he's on it. And at least he's saying the right thing. I mean, do you agree that Crawford and Canelo might be a step too far for Crawford now?
I mean, possibly. I mean, when it was first mentioned, it seemed like it fell into that category of this kind of like a fantasy fight.
Yeah,
But as time's gone on, and the more it's spoken about, we've kind of been not sucked into believing that this could actually happen. I mean, it still could, but I do understand what you're saying regarding that difference there.
I think a comparative difference is trying to get Noya Nui to fight, say, a Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
You know?
Just Gareth, kind of just coming away from that. Obviously, you know, we see Canelo and Berlanga kind of. It's great to see Canelo's personality has come out.
Yeah. He's a proper G, isn't he? He's a proper gangster when he wants to be.
Some of those hand movements yesterday were interesting in his face.
What, to Berlanga when he was doing all the
and this and whatever he was doing. Yeah.
Listen, he controls his own space brilliantly.
I love watching this version of Canelo though, because for years obviously he wasn't doing interviews in English, and now when we hear him talking and seeing his personality, it just
I always enjoyed speaking to him because I had the advantage of being able to speak to an Espanol, claramente, tío, which was a massive advantage both for a relationship point of view and being able to, perhaps being one of the few British guys that spoke to him in Spanish. So I got a little bit of an in with him. You know, he's harder to interview him over time because he doesn't do that much, but he did do the rounds. He's confident in English now. And like you say, there's a certain sardonic humor about him that seems to appeal to people as well. And he's really trying in English, and he endears himself to you by speaking English. And like I say, you know, the way he controlled, you know, Caleb Plant and the row between Caleb Plant and Edgar Berlanga. Don't worry, bro. I'll beat him up for you. Don't worry. Sit back down. It's very interesting, but really and truly, I'd really like to see him in some very challenging fights. Certainly after this, I thought Chris Eubank was going to be in the frame. I can reveal to you, I don't know who, and I don't know exactly when, but I know Chris Eubank's going to be in action in the autumn. He's been signed up for the autumn. I can't reveal the opponent yet. I mean, I was one of the people calling for Crawford Canelo ages ago, just as a kind of fancy super fight that could now be made because of that investment from the Saudi Arabians that's sloshing around right now. But also, of course, because that fight, it just generates so much money. So, you know, but we do need to see him we do need to see him in the Benavidez fight. We do need to see him in against maybe, and again, it's stretching his parameters against Bivol again, if Bivol defeats Beterbiev, or if Beterbiev beats Bivol in October, let's see him in against Beterbiev. It's a great fight. Again, that's a fancy fight for me because of their styles.
We saw Eddie Hearn and Terence Crawford yesterday, kind of carrying on from their week in LA. Did you see the Instagram post, Gareth?
No, I missed that. I missed that. Tell me.
So yeah, via Instagram stories. This was Terence Crawford on his post, kind of commenting back to Eddie Hearn, saying, I don't remember ever seeing a matchroom event like this. Like I said, I appreciate greatness. Start promoting fighters and stop using my name. Safe travels, Edward. Eddie Hearn coming back with, your head's gone, Terence. Check my track record. I've never seen you this angry. It doesn't suit you. I gave you more promotion in 1 week than you've had your whole career. You're welcome. Congrats on the win, though. Great fighter. Boot tennis, ready to make it 5-1. Yeah, this was I mean, it's a little bit light-hearted. It's not that.
It is.
But yeah, Terence Crawford and Eddie Hearn have had this little bit of, I'd call it light-hearted back and forth since the Ricky Burns fight all those years ago.
Yeah, and it's entertaining. It was entertaining in LA all week. It was entertaining that they were prepared to do skits together. And this is a change from Terence Crawford as well, stepping out there and showing his personality more. And I think, you know, Jared Anderson did it last week with Eddie as well. They realised that he's a conduit, a catalyst for numbers. People take an interest in Eddie's beefs and online, and they do go viral. But I think I'm not so sure. Terence Crawford's body of work speaks for itself. I mean, I don't think Eddie Hearn can take much credit for what he did last week for Terence Crawford. And I think Matchroom can't take credit for what really, it was a Saudi Arabian Riyadh season event last week. And they pulled out all the stops to get the Alicia Keys, I'm trying to think who now.
Vince Vaughn, Piers Morgan.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn, Piers Morgan. Yeah.
Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale, I was thinking of. Eminem, you know, all these guys there and creating this event and choosing the venue. And that I mean, if anything, the critique of the event was that it was in the heat for too long in the sunshine. And, you know, it could have started later in the day, and also the pacing of the event could have been a little bit quicker. But I think I see this as a Riyadh season, Saudi Arabian GEA success. The beef between Eddie and Terence is a good one. It's good for boxing. It's good for Terence. It's good for Eddie. I think Terence is a free agent right now, isn't he? But I'm pretty sure he's a free agent. And you know, he's obviously under the umbrella of the Saudi Arabian movement. He will have got paid handsomely for that fight with Madrimov, who pushed him to the limit, by the way, in what was a very, very close fight. I had them 105 each going into the last round, and Terence needed to win that round. He won it 115, 114 for me. Very close fight. Wouldn't mind seeing that again. I think Eddie and Terence's beef is quite good because Jaron Boots Ennis is a good opponent for Terence potentially next, so that increases the dynamic between Eddie and Terence Crawford. Eddie will enhance Boots' career, and if he can get a Terence Crawford fight, it makes sense after this.
What next for Martin Bakole?
Loads of praise and fights with the top 10 fighters in the world. He looked like big old George Foreman in there on Saturday night. Not too much of the old, but he looked like Big George, walking his opponent down, and a very significant opponent in Jared Anderson, a guy who's all the hopes of the American heavyweight scene pinned on him. He's only 24, so he can come back. But Jared Anderson got bested in a big way. Bested, busted, and beasted, I might say, in a big way by Bakole, who did look like a beast in there, and he was brilliant all week. I'm using a lot of B's, but he brought his A game. I thought he was phenomenal. Could understand Billy Nelson's emotions afterwards. They've been through a lot, those two together, in the last few years. Bakole against Joseph Parker, Bakole against Big Bang Zhang, that whets the appetite. Bakole against Agit Kabayel, Bakole on a card in October, Bakole on a card in Saudi Arabia, and Bakole on a card in December, even on the undercard of Fury-Usyk or Usyk Fury 2. He's really opened the portals for himself. People might say it was bad matchmaking, KUGAN, for Jared Anderson, but he needed that test. He just wasn't up to it. It was the wrong guy on the wrong night for him.
Yeah, I never thought it was bad matchmaking. I just thought it was a really bold move.
Yeah,
take Martin Bakole for Jared Anderson, but you could appreciate the willingness of Team Anderson to see exactly how good. And to be honest with you, Jared Anderson could have avoided those kind of fights for another 6 or 7 fights. He didn't need to fight Bakole then, but he will learn more from that than getting to like whatever and going through those kind of routes to building up your record. But brilliant for Martin Bakole, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant. It was brilliant. He thoroughly deserved it. He carried himself well all week. But Anderson played into his hands. He stood in front of him. He needed to move. He needed to be light and on his feet. The advantage for him, he's still only 24, I believe. He can do what Daniel Dubois has done and rebuild again after a couple of catastrophic losses. But for now, the American heavyweight scene looks a little bit bare.
Talking of heavyweights, not long to go. September 21st is quickly going to approach us. A huge week here in England, in London at Wembley Stadium. Yeah, we're not going to really hear too much from these guys now until kind of nearer the fight week. But that's going to be a big night, isn't it, for Anthony Joshua and for Daniel Dubois?
It is for those two guys. It's enormous. I mean, I still see Joshua as a big favourite. He's in a great place mentally and physically with Ben Davison and Lee Wiley at the Performance Centre just down the road from us here in just north of London. It's a terrific fight, terrific card. And I still do favour Joshua in it. They're both explosive fighters, both dangerous. And I see the Tony Bellew comments that Dubois is going to get put in an ambulance by Anthony Joshua if he gets hit by 40 right hands in the first 2 rounds, in the first few rounds of the fight, as he was talking up his friend Anthony Joshua. I caught up, by the way, yesterday with Joshua Buatsi, who was in Oakland on a Zoom with his PR guy, Joe Brett. And that was fascinating to see. He's really looking forward to taking it to Willie Hutchinson. He says, when you see the gloves are off, you'll see why I lost it with him and put my hands on his neck and had a go at him. You'll see the full reason why. He said he didn't like what Hutchinson had said to Craig Richards. And you know what Joshua Buatsi's like. Doesn't give a lot away, but he was in great form. He looks physically amazing. That's a great fight. I mean, I picked Hutchinson to win against Craig Richards in the 5v5, but I'm picking Joshua Buatsi to win in a close fight against Willie Hutchinson, but it's one I'm really looking forward to on what is an amazing card. Like you say, we probably won't hear much from Hamza Shiraz, Tyler Denny, and the others, Josh Kelly. I'm trying to think of the others now. Josh Warrington's on the card, isn't he? Liam Smith. It's going to be a fantastic card on the night. And, you know, one of the things that has been discussed in the background is that there could be a couple of other fights added to the card that they might take the rap in terms of going over the time limit on the night and paying the penalty to the Mayor of London. And if they do, we might get a couple more fights, but 7 fights on a card is plenty when you've got it stacked like it is.
Absolutely. We haven't heard too much from Tyson Fury. The odd video here and now. Have you heard from him, Gareth?
No, I haven't spoken to him. Apparently he's in good fettle, enjoying the family, ticking over. It's a long wait, I think, for him. I've heard he was going to be at Joyce and Chisora at one point. I don't know if you heard he might be coming down, but I think he was away with Paris on that weekend. I am about to check in with him in the next week or two. I do want to know how he is. Maybe even a visit would be great. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him at Wembley, around the Wembley week at some point as well. And because obviously he's part of the whole circus of that. And look, coming fresh from Los Angeles and seeing how successful the BMO Stadium, the BMO Stadium was with 23,000 people in it, and it felt enormous. I think it's going to be incredible, the Wembley event. I just think there's no roof on the place, but if there was one, it would blow off. It's as simple as that. It's going to be an amazing event.
Absolutely. But for December 21st, which is still quite a way away, Gareth.
It is.
Tyson has to go into mode, which he seems to have done now, head down and make sure he does everything possible to get this right, because it's not going to be great, like back-to-back losses against Alexander Usyk for Tyson. He'll be leaving no stone unturned, as they say, in his preparation. You could just see Tyson Fury almost just going into silent mode up until then.
Yeah, maybe silent mode, maybe not completely silent mode, but apart from the Ferocity interview that he did after his analysis of the fight with Alexander Usyk. He broke it down. He gave his reasons. You and I did an interview. I didn't agree with everything he said on it. I liked his attitude and I liked the way he was over very much of it. But he's got no reason to come out there and sell himself right now. And it's too far away. There's too many things to prepare for, to do. I don't care what anyone says. He's got to go back to where he was in round 7 against Alexander Usyk and just take off from there. It's going to be a tough fight again for both men. It's going to be a very close fight. Of course, he doesn't want to lose 2 in a row. This is the moment for him to step up and really create legacy. He says he doesn't really care that much about legacy. But the great and enticing thing is if he wins, he gets the belts back. We get the opportunity to see him fight Anthony Joshua if Joshua wins in September. And we still get the biggest rounding of the era, which is Joshua against Fury, which is a fight be a travesty if we don't see it in this era. And if he does lose a second time to Alexander Usyk, there is a chance he'd walk away. There's also a big chance he'll be enticed back as well. And for that reason, like I say, head down certainly works. I think it's great to see him quiet for a while as well and be off social media and be away from the sport and away from pronunciations of this, that, and the other. But you're right. And here are we saying, have we spoken to him? Are we checking in with him? He's actually got no reason to do anything. And it could be a simple matter of, yeah, everything's fine with me. I'm not doing anything at the moment. Check in with me in a few weeks' time. Check in with me when Joshua and Dubois are about to fight, and I'll give you my views on that then. So, as long as he's in a good place, I'm happy. I wish that of all our big heavyweights. Same as Alexander Usyk. He's making hay while the sun shines at the moment. He's doing humanitarian work. He's traveling around a little bit more. He's supporting his football team. And it's not like Fury needs to up his profile, but maybe Usyk did globally a little bit, and it's good that he's doing it.
Just the last one here, Gareth. I spoke to Barry Hearn recently, last week, and I kind of picked up on some comments that Eddie had made to me a few weeks ago, and I did ask him about, if Eddie was to retire at any point and have delivered this AJ Fury fight, would there be something missing? He said no, he wouldn't feel like that. Barry Hearn had the complete opposite view of that and said that we need to deliver AJ Fury in this era. Otherwise, it would be an absolute disaster if that fight, we couldn't put that on or be involved in putting that on.
But look, Barry Hearn knows his onions. He's absolutely right. If Eddie retires without having done Fury and Joshua, he'll see it as a massive loss. And there's no way Eddie's retiring right now. He's in. Do you mean retire without having ever made the fight?
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't think there's any suggestion that Eddie Hearn's going to retire anytime. No. He loves it too much, and he's brilliant at it. And it'll be a massive loss for Eddie not to be in the sport. I mean, he's extraordinary at what he does. Yeah, I do agree. I think it. Look, and also for Anthony Joshua, if he were to retire from the sport, having not fought Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, it seems unfathomable that can happen in an era when they were all kings around the same era, kings of the heavyweight division, around the same 5-6 years. I mean, it'd be unforgivable almost for the sport. And it would show the massive failings of the sport not to get these huge names and huge fights over the line. Like, as you say, it's catastrophic for Fury if he loses twice to Usyk. And again, from this position, I would still love the fight to happen because commercially, it's probably still the biggest fight in the sport. If he loses to Usyk, it's not the biggest commercial fight in the sport, but if he wins, it certainly is. But I think Barry's on the money. I think they've got to go all out to try and make that fight, no matter what.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Gareth, just one more, obviously, before I do let you go. Just a shout out to Lewis Richardson, who claimed bronze for Team GB.
I thought he won that semi, by the way. I thought he won 2 rounds to 1. I've just watched it this morning. It was last night, wasn't it? I thought he's very unlucky. He was leading 3-2 going into the last round, wasn't he? I thought he did enough. It's a very, very close fight against the Mexican. Was it Verde? Yeah, it was a very close fight. He was very unfortunate. I wish he was in the gold medal match. He's from just down the road here in Colchester. He only took up the sport for fun. He's gone incredibly well. He looks like he's got a great style, long, lean southpaw. I just thought it was very unlucky. Rather like Delicious Ori in the first round. I thought Ori won that 3 rounds to 0, or 2 rounds to 1 at the very least. The judging in this tournament has been very odd at times, very, very odd. And the spread of the 5 judges has been inexplicable at times. And it's 5 judges, remember. But congratulations on getting in the bronze. Very lean Olympics for the 6 athletes, the 6 competitors. 3 of them got terrible judging decisions. 2 of the women, and Delicious Ori. But, you know, not rich pickings in a games where GB have done quite well overall in all the other sports.
Okay.
Kaboom! Kaboom! Kaboosh!
Gareth A. Davies, thank you very much for talking to IFLTV. Let's get our customary selfie we do. It's not a selfie, but you ready, Gareth? Hold on. Give me it again. There we go, Gareth. Gareth A. Davies, thank you very much for talking to IFLTV. No doubt we'll catch up with you. August is a relatively quiet month here in the UK, but I'm sure there'll be lots of twists and turns in the soap opera of boxing that will occur in the coming weeks.
Great to see you, Cougs, as always.
Absolutely. Gareth A. Davies, thank you very much.
Wall Street Memes Casino
I'm fine.
and Sportsbook.